Well, at number 34, up from 39, Thomas Dolby, She Blinded Me with Science. Here's a record that is, well, it is both silly and yet brilliant at the same time. And Thomas Dolby even admitted that it was frivolous. The record was frivolous, the lyrics, but still, what a beat. And it cuts a deep, infectious groove, this record. She blinded me with science. And it's braced with hooks like you wouldn't believe. It is a classic hit record. And you know, one of my favorite parts of this record was the drums at the end. Probably a drum machine at the end of the record. That boom, 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 boom. Yes, I love drums. That's part of the backdrop of rock and roll is the drums. Techno record. Thomas Dolby, he used an instrument. It's an old school instrument, Moog. I believe it's pronounced as Moog. I'll pronounce it as Moog. It's pronounced as, I think it's Moog in German, but it's Moog in English. I'll pronounce it as Moog, M-O-O-G, Moog synthesizer. Moog synthesizer goes back to the 60s. It was used, first used, among its first public previews or public debuts was at the Monterey Pop Festival in 1967, and the Moog instrument, the synthesizer, was used in the brilliant Reflections by the Supremes back in the summer of 67. Emerson, Lake and Palmer used a version of the synthesizer in Lucky Man. God, Lucky Man was brilliant. Genius record. Spring of 71. And reflections of Genius record too. But the Moog synthesizer featured prominently in Popcorn by Hut Butter. Da, 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 da. Remember that? That was back in the summer of 1972. But Thomas Dolby had some difficulties with it because synthesizer still was not quite wholly embraced in the rock and roll pop music world. Of course, that would change dramatically in the 80s, but we're in the early 80s now. But a lot of the bass line effects, that dun 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 dun, oh, the Moog synthesizer. God, that's lovely. Guess who sings back up on this record? I just found out. Mutt Lange, the super producer who produced loads of hard rock albums by AC/DC, Pyromania by Def Leppard. He produced, oh gosh, did I mention Aerosmith? He produced albums by Aerosmith. I mean, the guy, it's Shania Twain later on in the 90s, even married Shania Twain for a time. But he sang back up on this record. How did Thomas Dolby hook up with Mutt Lange? Well, here's the deal. Thomas Dolby, he was in Paris. He was 19 years old, late 70s. He was just messing around in Paris, just making tapes and making demos. He put together a tape of some of his music, and he sent it to a music publishing company in London. Mutt Lange worked for that music publishing company. And later on, he was working on Foreigner's fourth album called Foreigner 4. He liked Thomas Dolby's tape. He called Thomas Dolby. He said, "How would you like to come up? How would you like to work on Foreigner's new album? Come on over, man. You can play. You can kill that synthesizer, buddy. You can play. You can arrange, produce, whatever." And Thomas Dolby, he plays the synthesizer on Waiting for a Girl Like You by Foreigner. Massive hit by Foreigner in the fall of 1981. What else do I need to mention about Thomas Dolby? His only American hit went to number 5 here in the States. And for some reason, didn't do as well in England. Went to number 49 in Britain. That's it. Thomas Dolby, now here's another interesting thing about this record. Thomas Dolby wrote this song. He wrote this quirky record because he wanted to make a video in the same style as a silent movie. Those silent movies that used to be so popular going back to the 1890s, 1900s, and of course they hit their peak in the 19-teens and 1920s, like making a Charlie Chaplin or Buster Keaton movie. Used to read a lot about those silent movie stars and directors. D.W. Griffith, Buster Keaton, and what was that guy? Lloyd. Oh God, I should know his name. I can't remember his name right now. It'll come to me later after I'm done with this video. Charlie Chaplin, Mary Pickford. He wanted to make a video, well, like a silent movie. It had all those cards, remember, not cards, but all those signs, just like the silent movies. Of course, the silent movies started to go out of style in the late 20s with the advent of sound by about 1928, 1929, 1930. But there were some art forms. A lot of those silent movies no longer exist, unfortunately. But he wanted to style that video like a silent movie. So, I'll be dang. And this is the early days of videos, too. Thomas Dolby, She Blinded Me with Science at number 34 on my fantasy playlist, March 18, 1983.